Wonderful. So this morning we have in studio, we have Mr. Bramani Charles, we have Mr. Rodney Small. Rodney is the coordinator of the Creative and Cultural Industries. Bramani is also representing the Creative and Cultural Industries unit. All right, I forgot the unit first time. Good morning to Ezzy. Morning. He is the marketing officer within the Carnival Development Corporation. Welcome back.
Good morning to one and all listening to you guys right now. Studios of Extreme FM. I'm quite comfortable here right now.
Quite comfortably. I see you're dressed down today, boss.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a pretty shirt there.
Yeah, well,
Casual Tuesdays.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea.
Remember COVID have us home with some things hanging up for a while now. We need to get them out, dust them off, and bring them
You
out.
sure you didn't buy that one on Friday when you say, All right, Rodney, good. How was your weekend, man?
Amazing. Totally amazing. I mean, after that great news on Friday, and going into the Victoria Park on Saturday, and going into the cricket on Sunday, and I mean, it was a wonderful time for the entertainment industry. And back on Extreme, back in this hot seat, and I mean, with yourself and
it's
Crash.
An extreme seat.
Yeah. But yeah, good morning once more, St. Vincent, Grenada, and persons listening on the digital platforms. We're going to have a good conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it.
Big up.
Before we go though, I know that you were integrally involved. You were here for school bands. If you could just take 2 minutes to just, share how that went down, and you guys were viewing and you were taking a part in the event. Wait a minute. Wow. Oh, this is good. This is good. All right, the school band showcase. How did it go down? How did it play out?
Well, we had an evaluation yesterday as a committee and a production team, and with all reports, we felt good as a committee. I think we accomplished majority of what we set out to do. The patrons were taken back with the amount and the variety of talent that we have here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So for me, as a committee member personally, I felt good. It was a bit of an emotional moment. And when I say emotional, I don't mean crying emotional. I mean, it is safe to say that St. Vincent, we're in safe hands where the entertainment industry is concerned. But notwithstanding that, we have a lot of work to do. I mean, as persons within the industry, as persons who are responsible for certain elements of the industry, we have a lot of work to do. We've seen the potential, we've seen the future on Saturday, and I just want to say a major thank you to all the sponsors, all the parents and teachers and principals who came out and give their support, not just on Saturday, but leading up to Saturday. And of course, I want to big up the Teachers Credit Union for being a part of the initiative for the past 4 years, going into 5 years. Yeah, and Crystal, you were a part of it too, so don't try to pull yourself out of it. You know what I mean? I want to say thank you to you also for doing a wonderful job. You know what I mean? It's not easy being an MC for a school event or a student-friendly event. You know what I mean? You have to be mindful, you have to be careful.
Super mindful.
Yeah. I mean, again, I want to publicly thank the entire committee. You know what I mean? I think we did a tremendous job. It wasn't easy balancing or managing 120 musicians backstage within that age group. And yeah, I want to thank the whole assembly who came out. It was a good turnout. And on major thank you to all the stakeholders, the CDC, the Teachers Credit Union, the Ministry of Education, the Department of Culture, the Ministry of Tourism, everybody who was involved. It was a good start to the opening up of the stadium. You know what I mean?
All right, congratulations again. Now let us go over to artists, persons within the entertainment sector. This morning we're going to focus mostly on becoming export ready. As a creative, somebody who a graphic designer, it is an artist, somebody who's singing, somebody who's producing, somebody who's working within the creative sector, right? We've gone through 2 years of a COVID-19 pandemic, and we saw that, okay, we couldn't go outside, but how do we make money? And how do we use that time to prepare for when we actually get outside, realizing that it's important to be able to hop on a plane and go to a different country. So let's start with, what does it mean to become export ready? What does export ready mean?
Well, that's a term that's been around for quite a while. In fact, the first time I heard that was back in 2007. Our good friends down there at the Ministry of Trade, they used to host a number of seminars and workshops to prepare persons in the creative industries to become export ready. And in simple terms, it simply means establishing a line to a market preparing yourself as a creative to access that market in terms of production, packaging, networking, and becoming ready to consistently have access to the market and penetrate in the market. There were facilities such as the EPA, with the Economic Partnership Agreement in the European Union, and this was before we had Brexit and all that kind of stuff. So there are some impacting circumstances which would have affected how we prepared in these regions. But the general concept is still very much alive. So it is to have our artists, whether you're involved in music, as you said, manufacturing and craft, or whatever it is, to have your products or services ready to perform at a particular standard that a foreign market can be consistently accessed, that you can have consistent access to.
I remember I attended a workshop a few years ago. As you mentioned, EPA. I think it was during the 11th EDF. And Mr. Killer was at that workshop. And I was a little surprised because I anticipated everybody who was taking part in that workshop to be persons who had physical products.
Right.
As opposed, when you know you have physical products, you get your certificate, you get an inspection, you have to package it, put it on a ship or a plane or something. But with creatives and people who are perform, how different is it? You don't have something in your hands
That is tangible.
that's tangible. Is it that it's harder to export that?
I don't see much of a difference. I mean, and I think that is one of the struggles that we've been seeing within our industry, in terms of, you as somebody who is in craft and is into the fashion, I mean, as you said, there's something tangible. But for me, as a performer, because there's two differences here now. There's the creative industry and there's the performing industry, right? And I think the principles and the concepts, they're the same. They're very similar. Because as a performer, for example, Bomani is a product. I mean, Bomani is a brand, and he must treat it the way you treat it. So Bomani has to package Bomani. Bomani has to brand Bomani. Bomani has to have products to help enhance Bomani in terms of his wardrobe, in terms of the way he carry himself on stage, right? So I don't see much of a difference. The principles and the approaches might be different in terms of how you go ahead creating or completing this product. But I think for far too long we figure that, it's so distant in terms of the two things I need to approach. Now, for example, Bomani has to be a brand. What is the name of your brand again, Crystal?
Olive Art.
Olive Art.
Olive.
That is a brand. Some of the things that you do, you brand it in terms of giving it a name.
Right.
You give it a package, right? You market it, you promote it, right? It's no different than Bomani being a performer on stage. Now, one of some of the deficiencies that we've been seeing in our world as performers is that we figure that it's all about taking up a mic or going to a studio, right? But the reality is that 10% is performing, the other 90% is business, and we were not able. In a broad way, in a big way, we have not been able to really create that environment where our artists understand that 90% of this industry is business and the other 10 is performing.
Honestly, we're not able to create, as in the persons who are at higher heads. Or
No.
is
I
it
mean
country-wise?
industry players. We as industry players, because training is important, education is important. There have been a lot of training around, and there have been training where artists just figure that they don't need to be a part of it, right? But for example, when that we say a promoter is approaching Bomani internationally, the first thing that he probably would ask Bomani for is your press kit.
What's a press kit?
Exactly. Your press kit is your, something like in a simple term, a portfolio of your catalogs, of your bios, of your professional photos, of your repertoire, of your management and agent information, your contact information, all these stuff. You know what I mean? And that's how the international world operates. So now, for example, Olive Art, I am approaching your business, I'm approaching your website, I'm going to see your catalog of all the work that you have, of all the things that you do, and a description of each of them. It's no different than going on Bomani's website as a performer. I must be able to go on Bomani's website as an artist, as a performing artist, and see his bio, and see his catalog, see his repertoire, his catalog. Because what am I buying? What am I buying?
Okay.
Am I just buying a beautiful voice, or am I just buying a man who could put on a nice blazer? I want to see the product. I want to know the product that I'm investing in as a promoter, right? And that is, for me, again, it's no different in terms of the principles and in terms of you having to be somebody who creates something that is tangible, right? And somebody who is on stage. Now, Bomani has albums. That's a product. That is something that is tangible, right? Bomani has merchandise. That is something that is also tangible, because your merchandise would be created from your brand, and the brand is Bomani, right? You are a fan of Bomani, and wherever you go, you might want a teacup or a mug that says Bomani. Now, what is Bomani role with that teacup or that merchandising? You have to package it. You understand? You have to make sure that it is attractive. You have to make sure that it's export ready. Now, how do you make it export ready? You know what I mean? Bomani hinted to some stuff. Now, you can't have a brand Bomani out there and it's not protected.
Intellectual property, right?
Yeah. So for you know what I mean, there's performing rights and all these things, and as performers, you know what I mean, the performing element is just, for me, you know what I mean, a small percentage. That's my own personal opinion. But coming off of a stage, the business should still be running, even though you're not on stage.
Right.
You understand? So even if you hire Bomani tonight to do our performance, as Bomani leave that stage or during his performance on stage, the business is running, the cash machine is flowing.
Supposed to be flowing.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what I mean? So there are a lot of elements, and there are a lot of, it's a conversation that we have to maintain and understand, because it's very broad, being export ready. And what's, as Bomani said, the conversation have been around for a while. I mean, even when I was studying in Jamaica, I mean, the big bad Jamaican entertainment is still trying to understand that concept in a holistic way, right? Because remember, we are coming from a society, or we in a society that we see hobby, right? And as a tagline that we have in the Department of Culture, is changing hobbies into careers, right? So.
Right.
And it's ever changing to it.
Yeah.
That's been one of the challenges. The term export ready has applied to performing artists, or the non-tangible aspect of the industry. It's ever changing. And we learned that through COVID, because prior to COVID, at the base level, having a passport is one of the
You serious? A simple
fundamental things about being export ready. I mean, you can have your products and packages and your music and whatnot, but if you don't have a passport, the promoter can't send for you. So some of those simple things, being in this space where your products and your services are being demanded and consumed, which means traveling, having access to visas and so on. Those were simple things that persons needed to take into consideration. But COVID showed up some of our weaknesses, right? So during COVID, nobody could go anywhere. You couldn't travel. You couldn't perform anywhere. So what were the alternatives? Well, we saw persons turning to the virtual space. Some countries were able to take better advantage of the virtual space than others. We had weaknesses in terms of receiving monetary gains from using the virtual space. In our parts of the world, it was more of a community service, right? Yeah. The practitioners didn't really benefit that much. Service providers did. Song companies, screen companies, lighting companies, and so on. They made a killing, but we were not able to find a way as performing artists to be able to be rewarded properly in real time for our services being exposed, although it was an easier exposure to international markets because it was right there online where anybody anywhere in the world could access it. So these are some of the conversations that I think we're being forced to have. I think we would make a mistake to consider that this would be the last pandemic humankind would ever see. Right. So if I hope
it's the last in my lifetime.
we have to expect that something else may come along that may impact how we conduct business.
We should have learned from this situation.
Should have.
I would like to just go into expand on something that Bomani said a while ago about he mentioned passport, and You might be surprised, Crystal, our listeners out there, that sometimes artists lose out on gigs simply because they do not have a passport.
And they're
In
serious.
some cases, they don't have a passport, and in other cases, they had a passport, it expired, and they didn't even know that the passport expired. Or they have a passport, it is valid, but a visa is required to go to a particular country, and they don't have a visa. Now, it's not a promoter's responsibility to get you a visa. That is part of your tools. That is part of being ready. We're talking about export readiness. Being ready to move be on the go. When a promoter call is something that you have the responsibility to take and to put in place. I need a visa to go to Canada. I need a visa to go to the USA, whatever. As an artist, you need to go make the arrangements, and you have that. So whenever the promoter calls you, you're ready to go. The other thing we have to look at is that artists need to see themselves. You are part of the product, not just your voice. You know, all Leon Rodney mentioned, if the promoter would be just buying a voice. The artist has to understand it's not just the voice the promoter wants to hear, the good song. You and the way you carry yourself, you have to sell yourself in a way that will make people want to do business with you. So you have to learn professionalism. And one of the ways to do that is to have a management team. Okay, you may have a road manager, you may have a booking agent or something that somebody has to be referred to. When a promoter calls you and you are making all your arrangements yourself, and you're not referring to anyone else who could handle your professional operations for you, it says something about you, right? So having a manager or somebody who also negotiates stuff on your behalf is part of being export ready as well. I mean, being able to put all your contact details out there, sell your product. If you look at Rodney, for example, you'd see, you go online and you could find various photos of Rodney doing something, some short video clips of him performing. Not just he want to just put them out there, you know. It's part of accessing persons who want to get onto Rodney. Could just go and look at his product, look at him and say, yeah, well, I think I want to hire this guy to do something. I never heard of him, but I just seen this and I want to contact him. So you have a number of artists who can do things, but you will not be able to find a video of them performing, and that is part of selling yourself. That's part of being ready to move, being able to make people see what you can do, what you have to offer.
All right. Now, I feel like you have just started to touch on something that we're going to go into next, right? But we have to take a break right now and head to the digital state of emergency mix. Good morning to all the folks who have joined on the live. Thank you so much. We got to go out and come right back.
Your village, your block is locked to X104.3 FM.
St. Vincent, what would you do with $50,000?
Pay off my loan, of course. Buy a vehicle. Finally start the house repairs. Save the rest.
Enter to win the grand prize of $50,000 in Digicel's Prime Plus 50K jackpot.